What's going on, FA Nation? Justin Fensterman back with you with another Fantasy Football Stock Watch as we have 7 weeks in the book of our fantasy football season. Time to talk trendy players, players on the rise and players that are falling. Let's talk production potential or lack thereof when it comes to fantasy football. This is your Stock Watch Report. Let's start by talking about players on the rise, and we'll start with Kyle Pitts. We've seen Pitts come alive over the last few weeks. Right before his bye in London, he caught 9 passes for 119 yards and a touchdown, and followed up his bye by catching 7 passes for 163 yards. He's posted 15.2 yards per catch, and the Falcons allow more points than most of the NFC, meaning that they'll have to be throwing a lot as they'll be playing from behind. Pitts has received at least 20% of the Falcons' targets over the last 3 weeks, and he should remain the Falcons' second prioritized receiving weapon. He's received at least 8 targets in his last 3 matchups. Pitts has the 3rd most receiving yards of any tight end, and he's had his bye already. Up next on the rise, Carson Wentz. Even though he hasn't thrown the ball as much in the last 2 weeks, Wentz has been an excellent bye-week fill-in quarterback, and he's produced 21-plus fantasy points in each of his last 4 games. He's completed at least 65% of his passes in 3 of his last 4 battles, and he's only thrown 1 interception all season. Even though the horrible rainy and windy weather conditions in San Francisco were impacting the Sunday night football game, Wentz prevailed on Sunday night, producing 3 touchdowns. Wentz has a favorable schedule coming up as they play the Titans, Jets, and Jaguars next. Up next on the rise, Damien Harris. After rushing in 2 touchdowns against the Jets, his Week 8 matchup against the Chargers is also very strong, and we should see him have plenty of success. Harris has been given 14-plus carries in each of his last 3 games. Harris has rushed for 100 yards or more 3 times this season. He's posted a touchdown in 3 straight games and rushes for 4.6 yards per carry on the ground. Only 2 running backs have rushed more scores in than Harris, and he ranks in the top 10 in rushing yards among running backs. Now time to talk about some fallers, and let's start with Sam Darnold. A lot has changed since Darnold was on the other side of the stock watch a few weeks ago. He was at the top of the touchdown rushers list, and since rushing in 2 in Week 4, he hasn't rushed in a single touchdown. Darnold's completion percentage has dropped off since the Panthers matchup against Dallas. His lowest completion percentage in the first 4 weeks of the season was 66.7%. In weeks 5 through 7, his highest completion percentage was 64%. Darnold has thrown 7 interceptions in his last 4 games and only threw 3 touchdown passes during that span. He got benched on Sunday. After throwing for over 300 yards in weeks 2 through 4, Darnold has thrown for over 200 yards just once. Up next, falling Chase Edmonds. Edmonds has outsnapped James Conner in every matchup this season, but he's getting vultured like crazy by Conner, and Kyler Murray is also a big threat on his feet. Conner has rushed in 6 touchdowns, and Edmonds has rushed in none. After being given just 10 rushes in his previous 2 matchups, he was given 15 carries against Houston on Sunday. Edmonds has been given 11 or more carries in 4 of 7 games. He's been impactful when given the rock, rushing for 5.8 yards per carry, but the Cardinals have too many weapons, and Edmonds' production ceiling is limited. He's even seen his targets drop a touch in the passing game, and he's caught 3 passes or fewer in his last 3 games. He hasn't caught a touchdown pass either. Final faller, Julio Jones. He's been hurt all year, whether he's been on or off the field, and in the 5 games he's been active in, he's caught more than 3 passes just once. He's constantly bothered with lower body injuries and hasn't caught a single touchdown pass. The Titans have been running the ball down teams' throats with the beast Derrick Henry, but they don't have many weapons to utilize in their passing game. After seeing Jones play in 75% of the Titans' offensive snaps in the first 2 weeks, it has dropped off since and played in just 43% of the snaps on Sunday in an excellent matchup against a very weak Chiefs defense. That is another Stock Watch Report, FA Nation. Keep it in gear and make sure you are always looking at all of our info on fantasyalarm.com, and make sure you don't take the foot off the gas, because a family that sticks together wins together. We got you covered.